pumps for a 6466 Deere motor right now in the state of Indiana. I had to have one overnight aired, so I'll have one tomorrow morning for the 4955. So I decided, well, I'm gonna go work some ground. So I hooked up my 512 John Deere ripper to the 9300 and come down here to my grandpa's place, and I'm gonna rip this because it's hard. It's got compaction. It's pretty heavy soil down here, and it's notorious for being packed. So I'm gonna try to rip this and eliminate the surface water. There is tile, and the water's not getting down to the tile. So that tells me it's got a severe compaction issue right now. So the old 512 is going to take care of that. So finally get to use the 9300 for what we bought it for. We bought it specifically to pull this ripper, and it's been doing everything but. Been pulling dirt wagon, soil finisher, and now it's time to put the ripper on it. It's a wet spot right here, so I'm gonna have to put the camera down. I got through that wet spot. Just had to do a little wiggling, but I got through. Really didn't have to raise the ripper up. Was able to leave it down for the most part. So anyways, this is our project today. We're gonna rip 75 acres, and then Dad's strength's gonna come down and probably put the soil finisher and crumbler behind the 8640, and we'll get this prepared to plant. Hoping by tomorrow afternoon I'll have my 4955 back together so I can go back to planting beans. Thought about getting the 4640 out and putting it on the bean planter, but I'm like, well, I got stuff I can be doing, and we're okay on time for beans. So I thought, well, Dad's strength and I'll just concentrate on tillage today and get some groundwork. So Dad's got Lil Dick over there, and he's draining some water right now, working on getting it to a surface drain, making a nice waterway for it. So anyways, I'm gonna keep ripping and see, get this 75 acres knocked out today and see where we're at the end of the day. Well, it got a little too wet over in that field, so I decided to come over to this one. There's no point in mudding that up that bad. They took the rain out of the forecast, so if it'll dry up some, I'll be able to get it ripped. But it's definitely a big difference between this 9300 and 8640 pulling this ripper. The 8640 would pull it, but only about 5.5 miles an hour. I'm pulling it at 6.2 with the 9300. The old 9300's got a little more sack than the 8640. So a little more lead in her pencil. So I definitely love these rippers. They do a beautiful job. I bought this ripper for myself for my birthday like 2 years ago. I bought it. I always wanted one. I had a toy one. I'm like, I want one of them rippers. Up until then, we just had 3-point-inch rippers. And I thought, I'm gonna buy me one of them disc rippers. So it was my birthday. Decided to go John Deere, signed the paperwork on it, and got me a ripper. So it's been a good decision, I think. Does a real nice job. I mean, you could almost plant behind this. I could probably do it with the amount of dirt that the Henniker air seeder moves. I could probably plant right behind this, but we're gonna run the soil finisher over it anyways, just to make it nicer. But I mean, you would kind of have that option with it if you shallowed it up just a little bit. The disc plates throw enough dirt and it's level enough behind it, or if you had some sort of leveling bar behind it, you could plant behind it. I thought about pulling a narrow crumbler behind it just to even things out, but we got the soil finisher, might as well use it. So I'm gonna keep ripping, and I think I can rip this all the way across here with no trouble. So it seems to be pretty dry over here. Just sitting here wondering what my great grandpa would think of this tractor on his farm. You know, he farmed this whole farm with the John Deere A, unstyled A, and a 400 case. And I believe he had a couple other tractors. I'm not quite sure. I know he had a Ford. Not sure if it was an 8N or a 9N. And I think he might have had a like an 830 case at one time. But anyways, just sitting here thinking, when he first started farming, he farmed with horses. And, you know, back in those days, the old timers were convinced that if you pull the plow faster than the speed of a horse walking, that plow bottom and moldboard, or moldboard of the plow, was burning that soil if you pulled it any faster. I'm out here pulling this ripper 6.5 miles an hour, well, sometimes 6.8, thinking, what would great grandpa say? Would he scold me for burning that soil? Or was that just a thing that they used to say? But it'd be kind of interesting to see what he thought about it. You know, his grandson working the ground and his great-grandson working the ground. I bet he'd be just fascinated with our equipment. And our equipment ain't even that new. I mean, it's not even that big of stuff. You know, 4430 on the planter, 12-row planter, 9300 on a 512 ripper, John Deere 8640 on a 30-foot case disc. You know, it'd be interesting to see what he said. And I'm sure he'd like to crawl in one of them and give it a spin. So it'd just be interesting to see. I never did know my great-grandpa on the Shannon side. He passed away in 1990, and I was born in 89. So I was just too young to know him. But from what I hear, he's just like my dad and I, a workaholic. You know, he used to work for the county highway department, and he would go out before their scheduled time, and he would start working in the morning. He graded a lot of the county roads here in Pulaski County. I've heard he wore out several road graders doing it. Had run several different brands of road graders. So kind of my great grandpa was a heavy equipment operator, and I think he's about the only heavy equipment operator in the family other than my dad and I. So I thought that was pretty cool when I found that out. But he would go out early, start working, wouldn't come back until later after working hours. He actually went over and above, you know, each working day because he had a job to do, and he did his job. So that was back when men were men. You know, that's when you had a job to do, you done it. Didn't matter if you got paid or not. You just done what you knew that you had to do, the task at hand for that day. So, but just about done with this part of the farm. And then I'm going to start going and doing some shorter rows and try to go until I can't go anymore, until it gets wet. So it's going real good though. Looks real nice out there. Hey, Dad Strength's down here now. I think I'm going to go over there and get an autograph from him. He's over there working that wet spot, trying to dry it out so that I can rip it. We got some water draining now. It's going down finally. Pulled the plug on this place. So just waiting on old Sausage to bring us a snap coupler so we can snap that Hickenbottom bottom riser that we drilled holes in to make it a top riser. We can snap that in our tile, and then we'll have a surface drain here. So hopefully this is the remedy to this wet spot right here, putting a surface drain. The sock on the tile is actually like sealed up with fine soil, so we're gonna have to get these tiles washed so that it'll take water again. Well, there we go. Got the surface drain in. Surface water's draining. I know it looks terrible, but it's mud with corn stalks mixed in it, and it's not very easy to make look pretty. So we're gonna disc all this anyways. I dug that waterway deep enough that we can disc right through it, drag the planter right through it, and it'll stay a waterway. So I put the remainder of the dirt over here in kind of a low hole, and got her all draining as we speak. So we're just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna head over to the woods. There's a few small trees I'm gonna push in the woods, and then I think we're done with Lil Dick for the day. Probably take him up by the house and park him. I think we're actually completely done down here with the tiles that we're gonna fix. So Dad's running the 8640 now, discing. Dad's Strength and Clara in the 9300 with the soil finisher. And I'm gonna head over to the woods now and push them few broken off trees in, and then that'll probably be it for the day.